People spend a lifetime searching for peace in wealth, in success, in people, but the more they find, the emptier they feel. And then there is a moment, a quiet moment, when you discover that true peace is not something you buy, it's something you become. It is when the heart finally bows to the one who made it. It is when you let go of trying to control everything and instead hand your life over to the one who already controls it. That's when you realize Islam was never just a religion. It was always the map to the peace you've been chasing all along. And that peace, once you taste it, nothing else in this world will ever feel enough. There comes a moment in life when the heart is so tired of running that it just stops. It stops chasing people, it stops chasing things, and for the first time it bows not out of defeat but out of surrender. And that simple bowing, unseen by anyone but Allah, becomes the beginning of peace. When your heart finally lowers itself before the one who made it, something extraordinary happens. The noise in your mind begins to quiet down. The weight on your chest feels lighter. You start to breathe in a way you have not breathed in years. That is the power of bowing. You see, storms are not always around you. Often they are inside you. You can be in a silent room and still feel chaos within. But as soon as the heart says, enough, I belong to Allah, the storm starts losing its strength. Submission becomes shelter. For so long you thought you were strong enough to carry it all, the pain, the losses, the fears. Then you discover that true strength is not in carrying, but in letting go. When you bow to Allah, you hand Him what was breaking you, and He carries it for you. Every prostration is like a reset. You kneel, and with your forehead on the ground, you admit, I can't do this on my own. And in that moment of complete humility, the heart finds a calmness that nothing else in this world can give. This bowing is not weakness. It is power. It is saying, Ya Allah, I trust your plan even when I do not understand it. That trust is like a light in the darkest cave. You may still hear the wind outside, but inside you, there is a steady, unshaken calm. Look at the ocean. The waves on the surface are rough, but deep inside the water is still. That's what happens to a heart that bows. Life around you may still be noisy and unpredictable, but deep within you, there is a stillness that no storm can touch. Many people try to fight their storms with distractions. They drown themselves in entertainment, in possessions, in noise. But none of these things last. Only the bowing of the heart lasts. Only surrender to Allah lasts, because that's the one anchor that never breaks. When the heart bows, it begins to heal. Old wounds that you thought you would carry forever start to feel lighter. You realize that you are not defined by your past, but by your connection to the one who can wipe it all clean with a single moment of sincere return. The world tells you that peace comes from winning, but Islam teaches that peace comes from surrender. And it is in that surrender that your heart becomes like a tree deeply rooted. The storms may shake its branches, but it will never fall. People around you may not notice it at first. They still see the same you. But inside, something fundamental has shifted. The heart that bows stops being restless. It doesn't need to control everything anymore. It has finally found where to place its trust. When you bow, it is not just a position of the body, it is a position of the soul. It is saying, my plans are limited, but yours are perfect. My vision is narrow, but yours sees everything. That knowledge alone is enough to calm every wave. Many try to live life standing tall, refusing to bend, thinking that independence is strength. Yet the strongest of hearts are those that bow before Allah, because bowing to Him frees you from bowing to anything else. Even if the storm doesn't disappear immediately, your heart begins to see it differently. It is no longer something to fear. It becomes a test, a teacher, a path that Allah is using to draw you closer to Him. That perspective alone brings peace. Every time you bow, remind yourself, I am safe here. The world may be heavy, but this moment is a refuge. It is a secret meeting between you and your Creator, where you can pour out everything and leave lighter. And the more you practice bowing, the more your heart changes. Problems that once consumed your thoughts begin to feel smaller. The same difficulties are there, but now there is a shield over your heart that was not there before. Have you ever noticed how a bowed heart walks differently? It carries itself with humility but also with dignity. It does not need validation from the world because it already has something greater, the pleasure of Allah. When storms come, they no longer frighten a bowed heart. It knows who controls the wind. It knows that no wave can rise without His permission. And because of that certainty, it walks through the chaos with an unshaken calm. The truth is, the storms were never meant to drown you. They were meant to guide you to bow. They were meant to remind you that you cannot do this alone, but you never had to. You always had Allah. So bow, not just with your body, but with your heart. And watch as the storms that once terrified you begin to lose their power. Because when the heart bows to Allah, everything else settles in its place. We live in a world that tells us buy more, own more, achieve more, and then you will be happy. Yet, so many people with full houses have empty hearts. True peace has never been hidden in the things you can touch. It lives in the one you cannot see but can always feel. You can fill your wardrobe, your shelves, even your bank account, but you will still feel something missing. Why? Because things can decorate a life, but they cannot heal a heart. Only the remembrance of Allah can do that. When your heart tries to find peace in people, it breaks. When it tries to find peace in possessions, it gets tired. But the moment it looks up and finds its peace in Allah, suddenly life becomes lighter, even when nothing around you changes. The richest man can still feel empty, while the one with very little can sleep peacefully at night. The difference is simple. One depends on things to feel whole, and the other depends on the one who never fails. If peace came from things, the ones with the most would be the calmest. Yet we see them anxious, restless, and afraid to lose what they have. That alone proves that the secret of peace was never found in this world's treasures. It is when the heart stops racing after material gain and turns toward the one who gave it everything that it finally breathes. Prayer then becomes your wealth, gratitude becomes your home, and Allah becomes your refuge. You see, things were always temporary. Clothes fade, homes decay, cars grow old. If your peace is tied to what can be taken away, your heart will always be fragile. But when your peace is tied to Allah, it is tied to something eternal. A heart that remembers Allah even when it has nothing is a heart that owns everything that matters. And a heart that forgets Him even when surrounded by blessings will feel as though it has nothing. True contentment doesn't come when your hands are full. It comes when your soul is full. And the only one who can fill it is Allah. Everything else is a distraction unless it leads you back to Him. Many people ask, why? Even after getting what I prayed for, do I still feel restless? It's because what you asked for was never the goal. The goal was the one who gave it. When you focus on Him, everything else falls into place. Life will always be uncertain. Money comes and goes. People come and go. Your own health comes and goes. But the one constant that never changes is Allah. Attach your heart to Him and you will find stability in every storm. Peace that depends on things is fragile. One piece of bad news can shatter it. But peace that depends on Allah is unshakable. Even when everything around you falls apart, you can still whisper, I trust you, Ya Allah, and feel safe. True peace is not when everything is perfect. It is when you accept that things will never be perfect here and you choose to hold on to the one who is perfect. That acceptance brings a calmness no purchase can ever give you. When you remember Allah, you remember that the world is temporary. And with that remembrance comes freedom. Freedom from comparing yourself to others, from racing for what won't last, from holding on to what was never yours to keep. The gift of dhikr is that it shifts your focus. Suddenly, instead of counting what you don't have, you start counting blessings. And that shift from complaining to gratitude is where peace quietly enters. Even your happiest day in this world is incomplete if Allah is absent from your heart, and even your hardest day becomes bearable if He is present in your heart. That is how powerful His remembrance is. Sometimes Allah withholds things from you, not because He doesn't want you to have them, but because He doesn't want them to become your peace. He wants your peace to come from Him so it never leaves you. So pause and ask yourself, what do you chase to feel okay? Is it things, people, status, or is it Allah? Because every other source will run dry. Only He is endless. Peace comes to those who realize that everything they love in this world is borrowed. And when you stop clinging to what is temporary and hold on to the one who is eternal, you finally taste freedom. So yes, peace is not found in things. It is found in Him. And once your heart knows that, it will stop searching everywhere else. It will bow, it will breathe, and it will finally be at rest. There comes a time in life when you feel like you've been knocking on 1,000 doors, waiting for one to open. You try everything, plans, people, possessions, but the doors remain closed. And then you discover that the door you needed all along was called surrender. Surrender is not about giving up. It is about giving over. It is handing your plans to the one who knows what you cannot see, and trusting that His choice for you is always better than your choice for yourself. How long have you been carrying those burdens? How long have you been forcing your way forward when the road felt blocked? Surrender doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you start moving with Him, not against Him. When you finally let go of the illusion that you control everything, life becomes lighter. The heart, once so tight, begins to loosen. And for the first time, you can breathe without fear of what comes next. Surrender is the door we all look for in different ways. Some think it is in wealth, others in escape, others in success. But nothing works until one day you bend your head in sujood and say, Ya Allah, you take over. It's strange, isn't it? We think that control brings peace. But real peace comes when you realize you were never in control in the first place. And that realization opens a door that had been closed all along. When you surrender to Allah, you stop fighting your past. You stop chasing things that were never meant to be yours. You stop fearing the future. You begin to live here, now, with a heart that trusts His wisdom. The door of surrender is wide open, but so few walk through it. They are too busy holding on to what they think they deserve. Yet the moment you walk through that door, you find a mercy that you could not have imagined. This door doesn't promise a life without tests. It promises a heart that can handle those tests. It promises patience when life shakes you and hope when the road feels endless. People ask, how can I surrender when life has been unfair? But surrender is not blind acceptance. It is knowing that even in the chaos, there is a plan. It is trusting that Allah writes every chapter with purpose. You will not find this door by forcing it. You will find it when you are tired of everything else. When you fall on your knees, when pride leaves you, and when you finally admit that you need Him more than anything. Sometimes the hardest door to open is the one that requires us to let go of control. But once you do, you will wonder why you didn't knock on it sooner. The weight you were carrying melts away. True surrender brings a kind of freedom that nothing else can give. Freedom from worrying about every detail. Freedom from comparing your life to others. Freedom from needing everyone's approval. The door of surrender does not ask you to be perfect before you walk in. It asks you to be honest. Honest about your weakness, your fear, your struggles. And that honesty itself is worship. Through surrender, you stop running from pain. You start running to Allah with it. And that change is what transforms the storm into a shelter, the wound into wisdom, the loss into a lesson. This door, once opened, changes how you see the world. Tests are no longer punishments, they are opportunities. Delays are no longer cruel, they are redirections. And your heart becomes steady no matter what happens. Surrender doesn't make your problems disappear. It gives you the strength to face them without breaking. It allows you to place your forehead on the ground and say, I trust you even when nothing makes sense. Every time you open this door, your heart learns something new. Patience, humility, and above all, peace. The kind of peace that is not dependent on what you have, but on who you turn to. What you thought was the end of the road was actually the beginning of surrender. And in that beginning, Allah takes you by the hand and leads you to places you never could have reached on your own. So if you have been knocking on doors that will not open, stop for a moment. Look for the one door that has always been there, the door of surrender. Walk through it, and you will find the peace you have been searching for all your life in a world where noise never stops. Prayer is a pause that the soul desperately needs. It is the one moment when you deliberately step away from all that calls you and answer only one call, the call of your Creator. Every time you stand in prayer, you make a powerful statement without words. I am not too busy for you. And that statement, made 5 times a day, slowly builds a wall between your heart and the chaos outside. People often underestimate prayer because it looks so simple. You stand, you bow, you prostrate. But the power of prayer lies not in the movement of the body, but in the transformation of the heart that chooses to keep showing up. The world will keep shouting for your attention. Screens, deadlines, people, they never rest. But the believer knows that there is a refuge, a place where the noise cannot follow. The prayer mat. When you pray, you are not just repeating words, you are aligning your heart with the will of the one who knows exactly what you are going through, even when you cannot explain it to anyone else. In that quiet, you find strength, the kind of strength that is soft but unbreakable. It is the strength to keep going, to forgive when wronged, to trust when uncertain, and to hope when everything feels heavy. Prayer is not just a duty, it is a lifeline. It keeps the heart alive. Without it, life may look full on the outside but feels hollow on the inside, and with it, even an empty room feels full of meaning. Many people run to the world to fix their hearts. They chase distractions to silence their pain. But a few steps to the prayer mat does more than any distraction ever could. It brings the heart back to where it belongs. The more you pray, the more the world loses its grip on you. Its noise becomes quieter. Its glitter loses its shine, because your heart is now busy with something far greater, a direct link to the one who made it. Think about it. Each prayer is an opportunity to recharge. Just as the body cannot survive without food, the soul cannot survive without prayer. Every missed prayer leaves the heart weaker. Every sincere prayer strengthens it again. In sujood, there is a kind of relief that words cannot describe. With your forehead on the ground, you finally put down the weight you have been carrying and leave it in the safest place. You know, even the busiest day becomes lighter when it is divided by prayer. Those pauses remind you that your life is not just about the next task. It is about preparing for the day you meet Allah. Prayer also brings clarity. When the world is loud and decisions feel heavy, those quiet minutes of salah become a filter. Through them, you see more clearly what matters and what does not. Some think that praying regularly takes away freedom. The truth is the opposite. It frees you from addiction to the world, from slavery to schedules, from becoming lost in things that will not last. Prayer creates a rhythm that keeps the heart steady. Just as the sun rises and sets in perfect timing, the believer's heart rises and settles around the times of prayer, finding balance in every phase of life. Even when life shakes you, prayer anchors you. It is your reminder that there is always someone listening, always someone guiding, always someone protecting, even when everyone else has turned away. The quiet strength you get from prayer doesn't come from how long you stand, it comes from how sincerely you turn to Him. Even a short prayer whispered with a tired heart can move mountains in the unseen. In prayer, you remember who you really are. Not your title, not your possessions, not the mask you wear for others. You are simply a servant speaking to your master. And in that humility, there is profound peace. When you choose prayer over distraction, you choose to rise above the noise. And that decision, made again and again, slowly transforms your life. It makes you stronger on the inside, even if nothing outside changes. So, never underestimate the quiet strength of prayer in this noisy world. It is not a small act. It is the difference between a heart that is consumed by chaos and a heart that remains calm while walking through it. One of the greatest barriers to peace is the constant need to be right, to be seen, to be acknowledged. The ego wants to stand tall, but the soul finds peace when it learns how to bow. True peace begins the day we stop letting pride lead us. Ego tells you, I can handle this on my own. Faith tells you, I need Allah for every breath. The moment you admit that, a burden lifts from your shoulders. It is not weakness. It is the strength of knowing you cannot control everything. The ego whispers, what will people think? But a heart that is free says, what will Allah think? That shift turns noise into silence. It turns the heavy weight of opinion into a lightness that fills your heart. Ego tries to build walls, thinking that standing alone is strength. But peace is found in lowering those walls, letting humility in, and accepting that every blessing we have is from the one above, not because of who we are. Pride makes us compare ourselves with others. Humility makes us compare ourselves with who we were yesterday. And when you focus on your own growth instead of competing with the world, you begin to experience a calm that no one can take away. True peace begins where ego ends, because ego is loud. It keeps asking for recognition. It wants applause. Humility is quiet. It allows you to do good even when no one sees, because you know Allah sees. The ego can be like a chain, keeping you from bending in prayer, keeping you from asking for forgiveness, keeping you from seeking help. When that chain finally breaks, the freedom you feel is indescribable. Many hearts are restless because they are busy protecting their pride. But the hearts that surrender find rest. They stop fighting battles that do not matter and they focus on winning the battle within. Think of the ocean. The waves on top crash and roar, but deep beneath the surface it is still. Ego lives on the surface. Humility dives deeper to that place where peace resides and no storm can disturb. When you let go of ego, you stop being afraid to apologize. You stop being afraid to ask Allah for what you need. And in those small acts of humility, your heart becomes lighter than it has been in years. The ego tells you, if I lower myself, I will lose. But in reality, lowering yourself to Allah is the greatest victory. Because every time you bow, you rise in ways the world cannot measure. Peace comes to those who understand that this world is temporary. Ego wants to cling to titles, achievements, and possessions. Humility looks beyond all of that to the day when only your deeds will matter. The most beautiful souls are not the ones who try to shine on their own. They are the ones who reflect the light of Allah by putting their ego aside and allowing faith to guide them. There is a strange calm that fills the heart when you stop competing. When you no longer feel the need to prove your worth to anyone but Allah, the noise of comparison fades away, and with it comes peace. The ego makes dua only when it's desperate. A humble heart makes dua all the time because it knows that nothing is too small or too big for Allah. That constant connection is what keeps it steady. Letting go of ego doesn't make life easy, but it makes your heart softer. And a soft heart sees blessings that a proud heart overlooks. It finds joy in gratitude, not in recognition. Peace cannot enter a heart that is full of pride. But once the heart empties itself of ego, there is space for Allah's mercy to flow in. And that mercy is what fills you with serenity. When you see someone living humbly, do not mistake them for weak. It takes far more strength to be gentle than to be arrogant. And that gentleness protects the heart from so much restlessness. The ego will tell you to stand tall, but faith tells you to bow. And the paradox of life is this: the more you bow to Allah, the taller you stand in front of life's challenges. So true peace begins where ego ends. Let it go. Lower yourself before the one who raised the mountains and calmed the seas. And watch as He raises you in ways that no one else ever could. We spend so much of our lives trying to hold everything together. We plan every detail. We try to predict every outcome. And we get frustrated when things don't go as expected. Yet, real calm only begins when you realize you were never meant to control everything. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop working hard. It means you stop carrying the illusion that your effort alone decides your fate. You do your best and you trust Allah with the rest. That balance brings a peace the world cannot understand. When you insist on controlling everything, you live in constant tension. Every delay feels like failure. Every setback feels personal. But the moment you surrender those outcomes to Allah, your heart becomes lighter even while facing the same storms. Think of the trees. They do not control the wind, but they still stand. They bend when they need to and rise again when the wind passes. That is what happens when you stop forcing and start trusting. You bend without breaking. Sometimes life doesn't turn out the way you planned because Allah is saving you from what you cannot see. Letting go of control means trusting that even what feels like a disappointment may one day turn out to be a gift. There is a huge difference between effort and control. Islam teaches us to make an effort, but to understand that control lies only with Allah. That simple truth can take years to learn and a moment to bring calm. The more you try to grip everything tightly, the more it slips through your hands. And the more you open your hands to Allah, the more He blesses you with what is best for you, even when it doesn't look like what you imagine. The moment you let go, you stop measuring your worth by results. You start measuring it by your sincerity. You stop obsessing over timing. You start trusting that every delay has a wisdom that will one day make sense. Letting go is not laziness. It is wisdom. It is choosing to spend your energy on what you can change and handing over to Allah what you cannot. That simple shift will make your nights calmer and your days more hopeful. The most beautiful thing about releasing control is that you start to notice blessings you missed before. While your heart was busy worrying about what's next, you were blind to the gifts already around you. Have you ever watched a river? It flows around rocks, bends with the land, yet always reaches where it is meant to go. Life works in a similar way. When you stop forcing every direction, Allah takes you where you need to be. Control convinces you that you can prevent pain. But faith teaches you that you can go through pain without being crushed by it. Letting go doesn't make tests disappear. It makes you strong enough to walk through them with dignity. When you try to control everything, you carry a weight you were never built to carry. The heart is not made for that much pressure. Only when you lay that weight down in sujood do you realize how heavy it was. Every time you let go, you make space for something better, for patience, for guidance, for doors to open that you never even knew were there. Control keeps you trapped. Surrender allows you to grow. Some of the hardest words you will ever say are, I trust you, Ya Allah. But those words are also the most freeing. They change nothing around you, but they change everything inside you. Letting go means you don't rush what is written for you. You stop chasing what was never meant to be yours. You stop fearing what is yet to come. And that is when calm finally settles in your heart. It is only after you stop trying to control everything that you realize how many things were never in your hands in the first place. And that realization becomes a source of comfort, not of fear. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means choosing peace over panic. It means trusting that Allah's timing is always better than your own. And that kind of trust gives you a strength that control could never give. Every hardship carries a lesson, but you will not see it if you are too busy demanding control. Letting go allows you to look at life with clarity. You begin to see patterns of mercy where once you only saw pain. So learn to let go, tie your camel, do your part, and then release the rest to Allah. Because when you stop trying to control everything, that is the very moment your heart will finally feel calm. A heart that remembers Allah is never truly alone. Even in the quietest, emptiest moments of life, there is a presence that fills every corner of that heart. A presence that can never be taken away by distance or loss. The remembrance of Allah is like light. Wherever it enters, darkness disappears. Even in times of sadness, that light reminds you that there is always hope, always a reason to hold on, because the one you remember never leaves you. Many people try to fill the emptiness inside with noise, with people, with things. But all of it fades when the room goes quiet. Only dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, fills that emptiness with something that stays, something eternal. The heart was created for Allah. So when it forgets Him, it feels incomplete. And when it remembers Him, it feels whole. That is why you can be surrounded by blessings, yet feel empty, or have very little and still feel full. When your heart mentions His name, it begins to heal without you even realizing it. Each word of remembrance is like a drop of water on dry earth, bringing life back to a soul that thought it could no longer grow. In times of hardship, dhikr becomes a shield. It gives the heart strength to stand, to be patient, and to keep trusting that Allah is near. And that closeness, even before any solution comes, brings a calm that cannot be explained. Remembering Allah isn't just for when you are struggling, it is for every day, in every breath. It is what makes ordinary moments extraordinary. It turns walking into worship, eating into gratitude, and silence into serenity. A heart that remembers Allah becomes aware of blessings it once ignored, aware of the temporary nature of this world. And that awareness softens the sharp edges of life, making the same tests easier to carry. Even the loneliest person can feel full when they are close to Allah. You may be unseen by people, but every tear, every whispered dua, every heartbeat of sincerity is seen by Him. And that knowing fills the heart with comfort. The reason emptiness disappears with dhikr is because the heart was never meant to live without its creator. Just as a plant withers without water, the heart withers without the remembrance of Allah. Sometimes you won't have the words to ask for what you need, and that's okay. Even saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, or Allahu Akbar with a heavy heart is enough to open doors you never thought could open. Through remembering Him, your heart becomes attached to something that never dies. That attachment gives you stability when everything else changes, when people leave, and when the world around you feels uncertain. The heart that remembers Allah does not become arrogant when things are good. It stays grateful, and it does not break completely when things are hard. It stays hopeful. That balance comes from dhikr. If you look at the most content people, they are not the ones with the most. They are the ones with a constant remembrance of Allah. Their peace is not in what they own, but in who they turn to. Dhikr softens even the hardest heart. It reminds you that you are a servant, not a master. And in that humility, the heart finds rest because it no longer tries to carry the weight of the entire world. The more you remember Allah, the less this world can shake you. Losses will still hurt, but they will not empty you, because your heart knows where to return to refill itself again and again. Sometimes all it takes is a single moment of sincere remembrance to turn an entire day around. One moment of saying, Ya Allah, I trust you, can change fear into calmness and despair into hope. The beauty of remembering Allah is that it requires no special place, no special condition. You can do it while driving, working, waiting, and every time you do, you invite peace into that moment. Even in death, a heart that has lived in remembrance leaves this world gently because it has been close to Allah in life. It finds no fear in meeting Him. The emptiness that haunted others has long been replaced with certainty. So, if you ever feel empty, fill your heart with His name. The more you remember Him, the more you will realize a heart connected to Allah is never hollow, never restless, never lost. It is always full. Every test you face has a purpose even when you cannot see it. Life was never meant to be without trials. But there is something Allah promises to those who turn to Him in those moments. Tranquility that does not depend on the situation. Tests are not punishments. They are reminders that you are not alone, that you are being guided. And when your heart leans on Allah during a trial, you will feel a calm that has no explanation except that He put it there. You might cry through your test, and that's fine. Tears do not mean you lack faith. They simply mean you are human. What matters is that even through those tears, your heart whispers, I trust you, Ya Allah. Tranquility doesn't come when the test disappears. It comes when you realize that the one who allowed the test is the same, one who will carry you through it. That knowledge brings a peace deeper than relief. Many people think tests take away peace, but the opposite is true. When the heart is connected to Allah, the test becomes the very reason the heart softens, slows down, and draws nearer to Him. Every difficulty you face is a chance to experience this promise. The more painful the trial, the more beautiful the reward of inner peace if you hold on to patience, prayer, and trust in His plan. Look back at your life. How many times did you think you wouldn't make it through? Yet here you are. That alone is proof that every test was designed not to break you but to build you. The heart that relies on Allah during a test is like a tree planted by a river. The winds may shake its branches, but its roots remain firm because its source of strength is deep and constant. Even the smallest dua you make in a moment of fear opens a door to tranquility. That dua is like a rope that pulls you back to safety. It reminds you that you were never supposed to carry it all by yourself. The promise of tranquility doesn't mean you won't feel sadness. It means your sadness won't drown you. It means that even in pain, there will be a light that keeps your heart from collapsing completely. Sometimes the test is not in what you lose, but in how you respond to it. And those who turn to Allah find a peace that those who only turn to people will never know. Tests strip away illusions. They show you how fragile life is, how temporary everything is. But they also show you what is eternal. Allah's mercy, Allah's knowledge, and Allah's plan for your soul. Tranquility grows stronger when you keep choosing sabr. Even when your heart feels tired, it is in those moments that Allah places a strength inside you that surprises even you. Some of the closest moments you will ever have with Allah are born in the middle of tests. When the world goes silent and you are alone with Him, you learn that your real refuge was never this world anyway. Tests remind you to slow down, to breathe, to see that everything you depend on in life can be taken away except for Him. And once you hold on to Him, that's when the real calm begins. When you hear about tranquility, do not think it belongs to someone else. It is a gift for you as well. If you just ask, Allah's promise is for every heart that remembers Him in hardship. What feels like the end of the world today may one day become the reason you are stronger. And you will look back and realize that through that test, Allah gave you the gift of unshakable inner calm. Tranquility is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of Allah in the middle of the storm. That is why some hearts remain calm even when their lives look nothing like they planned. Hold on to this. No matter how deep the pain, there is always a way through. Your test is not a life sentence. It is a bridge. And on the other side, if you are patient, there is a peace waiting that you cannot imagine. So when the next test comes, remind your heart of this promise. You are not walking through it alone. The one who brought you to it has already planned a way out and a peace to carry you until you reach it. Peace is not about a perfect life. It is not about the absence of tests. It is about having an anchor when the waves rise. That anchor is Allah. You can have everything and still feel hollow. But the moment your heart finds Him, you find what the world cannot give. That is why the calmest people are not those with the most wealth or fame. They are those who wake up and sleep knowing that everything begins and ends with their Creator. So as you walk out into the world, after this reminder, remember this. The peace you are looking for is already waiting inside you. It just needs to be unlocked with faith, with prayer, with surrender. The day you let Allah into every corner of your heart, that is the day you will truly live. May we all taste that peace before we return to Him. Ameen.